I know famously a few years ago now, some people built a chatbot to test, and it passed the Turing test because the other people couldn't tell if they were talking to a human or not. But they cheated slightly because they made it a young Eastern European boy, I think the chatbot was representing. So there's lots of, young children from a different culture will have gaps in their knowledge. So you can cover over you can paper over some mistakes. But, I mean, ChatGPT, for example, at this point is pretty... I'd say it's pretty hard to tell it from a human being. If you were just corresponding with it and you didn't have any idea, because people use it to write letters and things like that. And
right,
my wife used it to write a letter to the government. She told it what to write, but it wrote her a letter, and she got a very quick response to the letter. So it wrote a very effective letter for her. I guess you could argue whether, does that pass the Turing test, that it got a government official to actually respond in quickly?
Well, it's not a fair test because government officials are supposed to think like robots anyway. So that the fact that a robot can fool a robot is not as good a test as you would think. Well, so, here's the problem with the Turing test. Let me for those of our listeners, for those few listeners who don't know what the Turing test is, Alan Turing, the famous mathematician, was asked if a computing machine could ever actually be human, and he said, "Well, I don't know, because how do you tell what's human and what's not? That's not a scientific question." And when pressed for an answer, he said, "Suppose you had a human in a closet and a computing machine in a closet, and all you knew was the answers, and you couldn't see the person or hear his tone of voice. You just got written answers from both of them. At the point at which you can't tell the difference because the computing machine is complicated enough to give you completely reasonable sounding answers, you can't tell the difference between that and a human being. So for all practical purposes, he's a human being."